The Last of Us Part 3 is a game that I desperately am wanting from Naughty Dog. It seems like it's going to be the game after Intergalactic and will be coming to the PlayStation 6 generation. Now, since last year, we've actually got a few more new teases and some updates and confirmations from Neil Druckman and Naughty Dog about what's going on exactly with The Last of Us Part 3. So the initial tease was in February 2024, where Naughty Dog dropped a significant hint about the future of The Last of Us franchise during the special documentary Grounded 2, making The Last of Us Part 2 on YouTube. Neil Druckman, the co-president at Naughty Dog, revealed at the end of the special that there's probably one more chapter to this story. However, he was careful not to confirm concrete details, stating, "I do have that concept that to me is as exciting as 1, as exciting as 2, and it's its own thing." Importantly, this reveal suggested that Naughty Dog's next title would not immediately be The Last of Us Part 3 as we know it's Intergalactic, as the game is still in the concept stage and would naturally require much more time to develop. This lined up with statements from Jeffrey Pierce, the actor who voices Tommy, who said in December 2023 that The Last of Us Part 3 did not have a script yet. Druckman confirmed that there would be a through line for all 3 games, suggesting that the new chapter would take a fairly new direction while maintaining narrative connections. Now let's go into the cancellation that changed everything. The announcement about Part 3 came as welcome news to fans who were disappointed after the multiplayer game, originally titled The Last of Us Online, was cancelled. Naughty Dog explained that supporting it would require too many resources, severely impacting development on future single-player games like Intergalactic and The Last of Us Part 3. The cancelled title was shaping up to be a major multiplayer live service game expected to be an extraction-style shooter experience set in The Last of Us universe, where players could access a large map to loot, complete tasks, fight other players, and then extract. There were also rumors it would have been a standalone project featuring a host of new characters and locales. In 2023, Naughty Dog confirmed that they had 2 options: to either become a solely live service game studio or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. They chose the latter. And then once we found out they were going to be sticking to single-player games and the next Last of Us game project would be Part 3, debate started to happen online whether or not Ellie's story should end. Following the February 2024 announcement, debate emerged within the gaming community about whether Ellie should remain the protagonist. Some argue that Ellie's story effectively concluded in The Last of Us Part 2, where she loses everything while chasing revenge and ends up tragically succumbing to her biggest fear, being left alone in a world devastated by man and disease alike. The argument was that she has been the face of the game for more than a decade and her tale has been played out, with her character becoming increasingly withdrawn, disillusioned, and brutal. The alternative vision proposed exploring an entirely new story in a fresh setting with an unknown host of characters. Similar to how Fallout transports players to new settings with each title, some fans expressed interest in an open world Last of Us title set in the vast area that can be settled and explored at will, fraught with risks, dangers, and hostile factions. Now, we also know that the initial plans for The Last of Us Part 2 was that it was going to be an open world game, but the ambition for The Last of Us 2 was a bit too large, and to tell that story in an open world setting was very difficult. But it seems Naughty Dog has been striving to make an open world game for a while, since Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us Part 2 featured heavily explorable areas with their map. However, me personally, I don't think Ellie's story should end there, and that we focused on a completely new group of characters, and it's likely that's what they wanted to do with The Last of Us Online, so it's likely the plan for The Last of Us Part 3 is to continue with Abby and Ellie, and also hopefully Tommy too, to conclude this particular story in The Last of Us universe. I also hope that they do try and go for an open world title this time. Now let's look at Naughty Dog's broader vision. In June 2024, Neil Druckman clarified in an interview that Naughty Dog will not remain The Last of Us studio forever. He revealed that the studio is working on multiple single player projects. One that we now know is of course Intergalactic, and promise we will not be The Last of Us studio forever. We create experiences that are seeped in story and character, especially relationships, Druckman said. The stories have some sort of philosophical core that everything is going to resolve around and feed into. Following the success of The Last of Us HBO TV, many expected Part 3 to be announced so quickly. However, Druckman used the Uncharted series as an example of how Naughty Dog approaches sequels. Just because something is successful, people think there's all this pressure and we have to make a sequel. That's not the case for us. Uncharted was insanely successful. Uncharted 4 was one of our best selling games, and we're able to put our final brushstroke on that story and say that we're done, we're moving on. On The Last of Us Part 3 specifically, he continued, our process is the same thing that we did when we did Part 2, which is if we can come up with a compelling story that has this universal message and statement about love, just like the first and second game did, then we will tell that story. If we can't come up with something, we have a very strong ending with Part 2, and that will be the end. Despite this cautious approach, rumors from late 2022 already suggested that The Last of Us Part 3 was in development, and with multiple single player titles in the works at Naughty Dog, it seems increasingly likely that Part 3 was amongst them. Now, if we look at Druckman's HBO departure and his shift in focus, in July 2025, following the conclusion of The Last of Us Season 2, co-creator and writer Neil Druckman announced he wouldn't be returning for the third season of the HBO show. Season 2 wasn't as popular with fans as the first, with the Season 2 finale suffering a 55% drop in viewership, accounting for a gap of more than 4.5 million viewers. Despite this, HBO renewed the show for Season 3, with Druckman confirmed will be told from Abby's perspective, with Caitlin Denver reprising her role. Druckman announced, I've made the difficult decision to step away from my creative involvement in The Last of Us on HBO, with work completed on Season 2 and before any meaningful work starts on Season 3, now is the right time to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our next game, Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet, along with my responsibilities as studio's head and head of creative. Alongside Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet, there is reportedly also a secret game in development. In May, Druckman revealed there is another game at Naughty Dog being worked on, and I am more of a producer role and get to mentor and watch this other team, give feedback and be like the executive in the room. Now, if we look at The Last of Us Day 2025, there are some hidden teases in there. In September 2025, The Last of Us Day came and went with what many considered an underwhelming celebration. Instead of major announcements, fans received downloadable pumpkin stencils, Joel and Ellie themed Magic the Gathering cards, and Steam Point Shops avatars, and a bloater statue from Dark Horse. However, the juiciest part of The Last of Us Day, according to Gaming Bible, wasn't included in either Naughty Dog's or Sony's official blog post. Instead, it appeared on Neil Druckman's Instagram page. Druckman posted about the upcoming The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 scripts book set to launch in December, captioning it, love how the script book turned out, lots of fun memories while flipping through the pages, happy The Last of Us Day, can't wait to give y'all more The Last of Us updates when the time is right. That final sentence, can't wait to give y'all more The Last of Us updates when the time is right, was interpreted by many as an outright guarantee that more The Last of Us updates are on the way, making it a matter of when and not if. Now, some additional hints and teases is when we look at the recent Variety interview. Druckman dropped 3 major clues. He said, other things are coming and we can announce more things soon. He referred to all the various The Last of Us things I'm working on, and there's more stuff happening in the Last of Us world that has not been announced. These comments came after years of Druckman trying to convince fans that Part 2 could be the end of the story. The timing of his Instagram post directly after the internet reacted poorly to the Last of Us Day offering suggests he wanted to reassure fans without pulling an Elder Scrolls 6 and announcing the game years before it would be ready. Many observers believe Druckman's TV departure may be directly tied to a yearning to enter development on a third game, with the HBO series potentially reigniting his original love for gaming. Now, the current status of The Last of Us Part 3 is that while fans wait for an official announcement, all signs point to The Last of Us Part 3 being in active development or at least advanced planning stages, with Naughty Dog focused on Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet and at least one other unannounced project. The third chapter in The Last of Us will likely remain under wraps until the studio is ready for a proper reveal. Whether it continues Ellie's story, which I do think it does, or follows Abby and the Fireflies, which I also think it will do, or introduces entirely new characters in a fresh setting remains to be seen. But between Druckman's repeated teases, his departure from the HBO show to focus on game development, and the studio's commitment to single-player narrative experiences, The Last of Us Part 3 appears inevitable. It's simply a matter of patience. There is something quite exciting that came out of the cancellation of The Last of Us Online, as the game's former director Vinit Agarwal announced in July 2025 that he is moving to Japan to open a new game studio. And this was spotted by Push Square. Agarwal posted an update on his X account, formerly Twitter of course, revealing he was moving to Japan and forming a new game studio with more details to be revealed soon. In a post from a few days earlier, Agarwal had revealed he is going to continue making multiplayer games, as that is what he is is passionate about, showing that the cancellation of The Last of Us Online hasn't changed his approach to the industry. Shuhei Yoshida previously stated he thought The Last of Us Online was great when he played it, suggesting the cancelled project had promise, even if it wasn't the right fit for Naughty Dog's future direction. And I think the same could go for the Spider-Man The Great Web game, where those are the two projects I really wanted from the mass cancellations of all the live service Sony projects. I really wanted to see the online Spider-Man game and the online Last of Us game, and I think they would have been so good if done right, and they're, I think, the only live service games I can see myself jumping into. But I'll also leave my previous Last of Us Part 3 updates in the description below, and we will be covering it a lot more, along with Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet and what Naughty Dog's secret game could be. Comment down below what you think the secret game is, and when do you think we'll see The Last of Us Part 3, and do you think it will be an open world game? And guys, it is finally here. The Balboa Club Witch Hunt Collection Volume 1 is now available and will run from December through February, and this drop is specifically inspired by The Witcher, as I wanted to blend the styles of the wrestling world with the games we all know and love. So please go ahead and check out the Balboa Club store. It's on the channel store page, and the website is in the description and pinned comment section below.
Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement.